Hello ladies and gentlemen, Keaton here and welcome to this week's look at the latest Nuclear Throne update. This is update number 18. Now for those of you who don't know, Nuclear Throne is in early access right now. It gets updated every single week, and what we here at Tengu Drop do is take those latest change logs, turn them into video format and show you as much as possible. So if you're looking for straight let's play style gameplay footage, check out our playlist for a ton of Nuclear Throne content for you to absorb, and maybe come back later in the week, we might have more content for you. You'll have to stay tuned. But with that said, before we jump into update number 18, let's take a quick look back at update number 17. Now in update number 17, we saw the addition of the Crown Guardians, these brand new tough enemies that you fight in the second crown vault that you enter, which means when you go for your second crown, not the crown vault in like the Frozen City. Also added was a new musical track for the Crown Guardian fight, and a brand new mutation called Stress, which upped your fire rate as your health lowered. Also added were a couple secret things that Vlambeer didn't actually advertise, such as the new mimic chest that disguises itself as a giant health kit chest thing. And of course the thing I missed last week, the new secret area that can be found in the sewers. Spoilers, it's a giant Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reference. Now there are a lot of other changes, balances, and fixes. If you would like the full changelog for update number 17, hop on over to our previous update video, which not only covers this content in much more detail, but also has a link to the full changelog for update number 17. With that said, let's move on to update number 18, shall we? Now update number 18 is not necessarily the largest update, but it still contains quite a bit of important information. So with that said, let's not waste any more time. First up, the most immediate thing that you will notice when you boot up the game is that now all the characters have their own selection animation. Now what that means is when you choose a character, originally all it would do is focus on the character and then give you a little tidbit of information of its mutation and so forth. Now we have nice little idle animations that sort of just give the characters more feeling, you know. So for example, Fish sings now, Chicken pauses watching her show and looks over at you judgingly, Eyes stomps on the maggot that it plays with, and a whole bunch of other things. And so yes, we have even more personality drilled into the mutants we've already come to love and hate, maybe even. Speaking of characters, we finally get a little more shape into Rebel's character itself, because we have the foundation, the early workings of Rebel's new voice, which you can hear right now. As you can see, she no longer sounds like the default sound, which I think was Fish. And Vlambeer seemed to stress that this is a very early version, so it's possible that she will sound quite different in the future, but this is the groundwork apparently. So yes, we now have at least a slight idea of what Rebel will finally sound like. And speaking of audio, every single boss now has their own theme. And wouldn't you know it, I have clips of every single one, so take a listen. So as you just heard, Big Bandit has the original theme that we're so used to by now, but Big Dog has a more orchestrated, I guess you would say epic version of the theme, and Lil Hunter has a sort of more quirky, like plucky version. So yes, each boss theme seems to center around the same composition, but just switches it up with instruments and bells and whistles and doodads and all of that good musical stuff. Now animations and sound are not the only new additions this week. This week we see the addition of a brand new weapon type. You heard me right, a brand new weapon type. Now technically it uses energy ammo, but the behavior itself is so different that I would consider this a brand new weapon type. Anyway, what this weapon is called is the Lightning Pistol. Now from the testing that I did, the Lightning Pistol seems to act sort of like an energy weapon. However, the beam, I guess is what you would call it, is randomized. So you have no idea where the beam is actually going to go. So the weapon is completely randomized in terms of which direction it shoots. And the most interesting prospect of this though is the fact that the beam can arc. And what this means is you can sort of shoot around corners. So if you're lucky, it seems like you won't even need to be in like direct line of sight with your target. You can sort of just hope for the best and shoot a lightning weapon, and it might arc and hit the enemy that's on the other side of the wall. So yeah, I would say that the lightning pistol, after the initial test, seems to be a very random weapon. I don't know exactly how effective it's going to be in combat, but like Vlambeer say, it's a early work in progress, so we'll see how it goes in the next update maybe. Now, according to the changelog, the way that inputs are handled has been completely redone, and according to the changelog, this is apparently a very important change. Now, the changelog states that this is going to help with a lot of performance issues. I'm assuming that refers to the fact that if you would hit like a whole bunch of enemies at once, your game had a chance of stuttering, which is something that I've been experiencing since the very beginning. And I guess the performance issues also affected the input lag, which would occur with things like Crystal Shield, where Crystal Shield would not recognize inputs while being stuck in the shield mode. But the most important aspect, which seems to be a much more back-end thing, is that this is going to allow people to possibly customize their controls in the future, which I think is something that the community has been asking for quite a bit. So yeah, it seems like this input change is very, very important. You may not see it, you may not experience it yourself, but I guess the thing to take away from this is that it gets us one step closer to a more stable product. And finally, with the technical mumbo jumbo out of the way, we come to the main event, the big thing that you are here to see: the addition of brand new IDPD enemy types. Yes, you heard right, the Popo called for backup, and they come in the form of two new types. One is called the Shielders, and the other is called the Inspectors. Now, you may be asking yourself, what's so special about these Shielders and Inspectors? Well, first off, the Shielders, I believe, have SMGs, or some type of automatic weapon, which means they fire twice as fast, maybe 3 times as fast as normal IDP enemies. But that's not their only feature. No, they're called Shielders for a reason, and that's because they possess the same power that Crystal does. So what this essentially means is sometimes in combat, they will turn into a giant rectangular thing, which makes them impervious to damage and also deflects bullets. Now, the Inspectors, on the other hand, their weapon of choice seems to be the Slugger. And just like the Shielders, they also have a special ability. Their special ability is to bring you closer with their telekinesis. That's right, they have eyes telekinesis power. That means they'll pull you in with their telekinesis and blast you away with their Sluggers. Now, if you're wondering when and where these show up, it seems they will spawn as early as any IDPD enemy will. So keep an eye out at what you're shooting, because you are definitely not only shooting the normal IDPD grunts anymore. And that does it for new content this week. And because the changes and fixes this week is so short, I'm just gonna go down the list really quickly for you guys. So here we go. First up, in terms of balances, IDPD explosions will now blow up walls, but the grunts and inspectors who throw said grenades no longer have infinite number of grenades. And in terms of fixes, the blood launcher has now been fixed, so you should no longer be getting errors. And of course, as we mentioned before, you should be getting no more input lag, and you should also maybe see a boost in performance if you've been suffering from it already. And finally, if you're a gamepad player, the game now supports auto aim from 0 to 200% that can be set in the options. And that does it for this week's Nuclear Throne update. Again, it was a very short one, but it was a very significant one at that. And really, it looks towards the future of Nuclear Throne, not necessarily from a content standard, but from a behind-the-scenes standard. Now, this week I don't necessarily have any opinions. I'll just sum it up by saying it's nice to see that the characters and everything based around the game is getting fleshed out even more with the new sounds, new animations, etc., etc. I'm excited to see what the lightning pistol and the lightning weapons in general turn out to be like in the final product. As it stands right now, I'm not necessarily excited to play with any of them because they're way too random, and I'll just leave it at that. Always nice to see additions to the IDPD. I like that they have special abilities that make fighting them less of a bore. I'll be honest, they were a little boring, but now this spices them up, so glad to see that. Other than that, nice update. I'm not going to complain. It is what it is. It's a necessary update. And yeah, with that said, that was the update. Apparently there's one more update before Vlambeer head off to GDC, the Game Developers Conference. And apparently it's going to be a very minor one. So don't expect anything too mind-blowing next week. But again, we're going to have your back. We're going to be covering it. And while the guys are away at GDC, we will have Nuclear Throne content for you guys to give you your weekly or maybe bi-weekly Nuclear Throne fix, so don't you worry. Now, if you would like to learn more about Nuclear Throne, or if you would like to purchase the game yourself, or if you would like to watch Vlambeer, the developers, creating this game every Tuesday and Thursday, maybe not for the next couple of weeks because they'll be away at GDC, but regardless, check out nuclearthrone.com, get all that information and more. If you would like to contribute to the ever-growing community of the Nuclear Throne knowledge base and brilliance, head on over to the Nuclear Throne wiki and just give those guys some love for all that they do for the community there. And yes, that does it for us this week. As always, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was informative. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!